You may proceed, Mr. Weinstein.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Special Agent Dickerson.
Good morning.
Just to formally introduce myself, I'm Doug Weinstein, and I am representing Mr. Kassotis in this case. I just want to make sure I understand your experience. You have been a crime scene specialist for about 4 years, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's with the GBI. I understand you have experience before that as well, right?
That's correct.
And did you say yesterday, and I understand you're not a statistician, I think that's the words you used, but you see about 20, or you analyze about 25 to 50 scenes per year?
25 to 30.
25 to 30.
Yes, sir.
So over 4 years, 100, 120, roughly. I won't hold you to that number, but 100, 120 is about right?
Sure.
Quite a few.
Yes, sir, right around there.
Okay. Let's go back to December the 2nd.
Yes, sir.
You go to, I guess, the scene at Jones Road and what we're calling Hunt Club Road, that intersection where the gate is, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you get there at about 9:15 at night, roughly.
Yes, sir.
You said that there was lots of trash on the side of the road, correct?
Yes, sir.
You said there were beer cans, right?
Yes, sir.
You said there were Coke bottles. When you say by the side of the road, was that on Jones Road or was that on the Hunt Club Road?
Jones Road is a public road, so there's far more litter on the side of Jones Road than there was on the Hunting Club Road, but you know there was some on the Hunting Club Road as well.
And again, you saw beer cans and Coke bottles. What other trash did you see there?
Just your generic roadside litter that you would see anywhere, and I say Coke bottles generically, soda bottles. But I remember seeing a box that contained an alcoholic beverage, like a cardboard box. I think there was even a couple of old box TVs, CRT TVs that had been discarded in the woods there at the intersection. So there was a significant amount of trash in the area.
And as an old trademark lawyer, I appreciate you clarifying that when you said Coke bottle, you really meant that generically and not the Coca-Cola company.
Yes, sir.
So now, you did not elect to take any of those beer cans or soda cans, soda bottles, beer bottles into evidence, correct?
That's correct.
Now, isn't it true that beer cans, Coke bottles, that type of material, you could get latent prints off of those at times, correct?
That's a possibility, yes.
And out of that 100, 120 scenes that you have collected evidence from before, have you ever picked up cans, bottles, other things like that?
Yes, sir. I picked up items that were later processed for latent fingerprints. Yes, sir.
Okay. But in this case, you elected not to pick those up, correct?
That's correct.
You did also, there was a cigarette pack that was photographed, I believe a Marlboro pack, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you took that Marlboro pack into evidence, right?
I did.
Are you the person, once you collect this into evidence, it then goes to a crime lab?
That's correct.
And what crime lab does that go to?
So when I say crime lab, the GBI operates a statewide crime lab, and we have several locations. The location that serves our area is located in Pooler. It's Coastal Crime Lab.
I'm sorry. Are you through?
I am.
Okay. When it goes to the crime lab, are you the one that decides on what tests are performed by the crime lab?
To some extent, we can submit evidence to the lab and request that certain processes be conducted on evidence. We cannot require them to be processed. The lab does have to make decisions based on the resources that they have available to them.
I believe you testified that the case agent in this case I don't know what the right verb is, Tracy Sands, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's
Agent
correct.
Sands? Do you see Agent Sands in the courtroom now?
I do.
Where's Agent Sands?
He's sitting at the prosecution table.
Okay. So does Agent Sands also, is he someone that could also request that certain evidence be analyzed at the crime lab?
That's correct. We can request.
So either you might request, Agent Sands might request, might request, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Did you request any analysis on that Marlboro cigarette pack?
So the evidence submission forms were made and the cigarette pack was submitted to the crime lab, but it would be a better question for Agent Sands than it would be for myself.
Okay. Well, you specifically did not request any particular analysis on the Marlboro cigarette pack, correct?
That's correct.
We mentioned the bottles and the cans and that you could get latent prints off of those, or you have at times, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you also get DNA evidence off like a Coca-Cola can?
Certainly, it's a possibility.
But in this case, you collected none of those, correct?
That's correct.
And let's move to 311 East 65th Street in Savannah. So we'll talk about that for a bit. You called that a crime scene in your testimony. Why did you call that a crime scene?
It's sort of a shorthand for saying that it's a place that we searched for or examined for signs of criminal activity.
When you call it a crime scene, are you presuming that a crime occurred there?
So the presumption holds yes. We do need to, we're not going to go to a place that's just random and say, well, we don't think a crime happened here, but we're going to search anyway. I mean, we're going to go there based on fact and driven by how the investigation leads us, and then conduct an examination of a place, be it a vehicle or apartment, a house, wherever, based on the fact that there may be something there.
Okay. And that property had a house upon it that we heard a lot of testimony about yesterday, correct?
Yes, sir.
And there was also a shed in the back of the house, right?
There was.
Did you look in that shed?
I did.
About how big was that shed?
10 by 10, 12 by 12, not very big, but.
And what was located inside the shed?
If I remember correctly, it was just packed full of tools and things you might find in a garden shed. There were some old paint cans, things stored. I don't recall exactly without referring to a photograph that I took of the interior, but it was not particularly well kept. It was a little haphazard the way things were stored inside.
Well, lots of folks keep their sheds in the back like that, I think, correct?
Me as well.
Did you do any luminol testing within that shed?
Not within the shed. I did, however, take a few items out of the shed and bring them into the house for testing.
What items did you take from the shed to bring into the house for testing?
There were some power tools.
And what was the result of your luminol testing on those power tools?
There was no result shown from the Blue Star application.
And when you say Blue Star, that's the Blue Star luminol that was discussed yesterday, right?
Correct. That's the chemical that causes the blue glow when it comes into contact with blood.
You also, and correct me if I'm wrong, always correct me if I misstate anything that you said, because
Yes,
I don't want to mischaracterize or get anything wrong about your testimony, okay? So please just stop me. Will you do that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think you will anyway. I just want to make sure I hear it from you. Did you testify yesterday that you do not believe, and I'm sorry, I have to be indelicate because of the nature of this case, you believe Mrs. Kassotis was not dismembered in that house?
I believe that there's not enough physical evidence available to make that determination decisively.
One way or the other?
Correct.
If she was dismembered in that house, what type of evidence would you have expected to find that might confirm that she was dismembered there, or lead you to believe with greater certainty that she may have been dismembered there?
Without sounding too jocular, hopefully a video of the inside of the house showing it, but that would be great evidence. There wasn't any video, obviously, of the interior of the house showing a crime having occurred, but if I were to remember yesterday when I taught, a lot of the questions that are posed to us, asked about crime scene starts off with, well, it depends. In this particular case, it depends on, you would expect to see a lot of blood, but it will also depend on the preparations that were made prior to, and again, this is a terrible thing to talk about, but prior to her being dismembered, if there were any protective measures made. I put on a Tyvek suit before I got into a ditch full of mud and water and other biological hazards. If somebody were to lay down, say, a tarp or something like that, then that might protect items of furniture, the walls or floor from blood. So it just depends.
You found relatively little blood there, correct?
Correct.
As a matter of fact, the blood that was on the floor, I think you said that you had to do a full 1 minute exposure in order to render an image of the luminol glow from the floor, correct?
That's correct.
What's your typical exposure when you take a photograph of luminol?
Typically, again, it depends. If the reaction is very bright and the picture is being taken from very close away from the subject, it's like a close-up photograph as opposed to an overall photograph of the room where I might have to use a smaller aperture that lets less light into the camera per second that the shutter's open, then I may be able to use a 15 or 20 second exposure. If it's an overall photograph of a room and I'm using a smaller aperture in order to get the entire room in focus, then I may need to use a longer shutter speed to compensate for that darkness.
Well, let's compare it to the luminol glow that came from the futon that was found in the residence. Correct. How long was the shutter exposure when you photographed that luminol on the futon?
I honestly wouldn't recall.
Would that be in your notes?
So it wouldn't be in our notes. However, the digital cameras that we use contain a small piece of information called an EXIF file, or exchangeable image file. And you can think of that file like a tag on a Christmas gift, if you would. It's got a little bit of information about the photograph in it. It's limited to about 64 kilobytes of data. And what that contains is information about the date and time that was set on the camera when the photograph was made. It can tell you information about the make and the model of the camera that took the photograph, and it'll also tell you things like shutter speed, aperture, the ISO setting, or how sensitive the digital sensor was at the time that the photograph was taken. And for newer cameras and for your cell phones, it'll also contain geographic information like your GPS coordinates. So I could refer to that file, but we'd have to take a break and I'd have to load the file and look at it in a computer.
Okay. That EXIF file, that's essentially metadata. Correct, about the photograph?
Yes, sir.
So you don't recall exactly how long. Was it less than 60 seconds?
I'm assuming so, yes, but again, I couldn't speak with any certainty, but it wasn't as long an exposure, I believe, as the overall of the entire room.
And as far as, I guess, what you've been referring to as the arc on the wall, the arc of blood that was about a foot long or so, yes, that was so minimal that you couldn't even photograph it, correct?
That's correct.
You made an initial application. I believe you said you had to get, did you say you had to get really close to even see that there was a glow?
Correct. It was very, very difficult to see.
And that futon, the location of the blood on the futon, you testified yesterday that, well, I guess you went to the house in May of 23, correct?
That's correct.
And Mrs. Kassotis' murder was back in that November, December 22 time frame, correct? It was 6 months prior. Mrs. Kassotis was murdered about 6 months prior to that.
Her body was recovered on December 2nd, yes, sir.
Okay. So it had been 6 months, and you said that futon, you don't know what position that futon was in 6 months prior to you being at the house.
No, sir. It's movable within the scene, so I have no idea.
So the futon could have been flipped around, correct?
Correct.
And when you saw the futon, I guess the blood was would be, I guess, behind on the backside of where your head would rest if it was a couch, correct? But it could have been flipped around.
Yes, sir.
And that blood could have been in the seating area of the futon if it was flipped around in that way.
Yes, sir. It'd be more on like on the edge, like if the futon was a mattress, so to speak, that was just foldable, then instead of it being on the top or the bottom, it would be kind of on the side.
So if you were sitting on the edge of the futon, then that blood could be beneath where you're sitting, correct?
Possibly.
When you do the luminol testing, that is just showing the presence of blood, correct?
Yes, sir.
Could be human blood, could be animal blood, right? You don't know what type of blood.
Yes, sir.
Does the luminol tell you whether it would be venous blood or menstrual blood? Does it tell the type of blood at all?
No, sir. Again, this chemical reacts with the hemoglobin, the iron in the blood, so it doesn't differentiate between where the blood came from within the body. It's just blood.
So because you just know it's some kind of blood, I think you testified that then you do an OBTI test, correct?
Yes, sir.
And just maybe to refresh everyone's memory, that OBTI test is the one that looked like those kind of COVID tests that we all had to suffer through a few years ago, right?
Yes, sir. Very similar.
Very small. The OBTI test, that tells you whether or not it's human blood, correct?
It can give you an indication thereof, yes, sir.
Does it indicate whether it's menstrual blood or not?
No, sir.
Can we pull out, let me see, which specific exhibit? Give me just one moment, please. You still have all your exhibits from yesterday up there behind you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Could you pull out exhibit 1.8, which is the package that contains the wipe that you found wrapped around the handle of the knife? Could you open that up, please? Would you remove the wipe once you have that open? Okay. Is it possible to open that up anymore without damaging it? May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm not going to touch it.
There are gloves if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm
also.
good. All right, so there's actually two wipes there, is that correct? They're perforated, there's a perforation keeping them together?
That's correct.
Okay. You may put that away now. Thank you very much. So you collected all of these wipes as evidence and you submitted them to the lab, correct?
That's correct.
You testified yesterday that in some cases these cleaning wipes can destroy DNA, correct?
That's my understanding in conversations that I've had with the folks at the lab in the biology section, is that is a possibility that the DNA can be damaged by certain brands of cleaning wipes depending on the chemicals that are involved in the process.
But then there are also other brands of cleaning wipes where DNA would not be destroyed, correct?
That's possible, but I couldn't speak to it with any certainty.
Did you ask that these wipes be checked for DNA?
Again, with Agent Sands having submitted the evidence himself for testing, then those requests would have been made through him.
So if you could just answer that one question, did you request that these wipes be tested for DNA?
I did not.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Special Agent.
Briefly, Judge. Agent Dickerson, you were asked by counsel whether you saw certain drinking containers on the roadway, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall that series of questions?
Yes, ma'am.
How far were they from the body?
So, as we spoke several times yesterday, the body was about 650 feet away from the intersection, down the Hunting Club Road, and then Jones Road itself, there was an orange gate pretty much at the intersection. The majority of the trash that I observed on scene was pretty much as you would expect to see. It was in the ditch and along the edge of the road on the public road.
That's on Jones Road?
Correct.
Okay. And if that trash, including those drinking cans, had been found in proximity to the torso, would you have taken them?
Of course.
Did you, with respect to the Marlboro pack that you referred to?
I did. It wasn't exactly found near the body. It was about halfway back toward the intersection from the body. So there wasn't necessarily a direct connection between the two, but we took it out of an abundance of caution.
Okay. And I believe you testified yesterday about the conditions of the weather in the days leading up to December 2nd of 2022. Can you refresh us as to what it was in those days?
Yes, ma'am. We spoke with, as part of our initial briefing when we arrived on scene, we spoke with...
Objection to hearsay.
He's just saying who he spoke with. He didn't say what they said.
As long as he doesn't say what they said. All right.
Did you speak with anybody about the weather conditions?
I did.
Were you yourself in Liberty County on those days beforehand?
I was not.
Did you see if there was any rain in the ditch anywhere near these areas?
Yes.
How much rain? Meaning, on your body, how deep was the water?
Well, there was standing water in the ditches, and the ground was very saturated when we got there, even though it wasn't actively raining at the time.
Okay. And just so we're clear, we're in South Georgia, so sometimes we have standing water all the time, right?
Yes. I can also say that as part of the forensic entomology that was done, there was some weather conditions that had to be researched, and I was able to access weather data from a nearby weather station. And while I don't remember the exact numbers, I can tell you it recorded precipitation in the area in the days leading up to the discovery of Mindy's torso.
Do you know if anybody else actually recorded, or without telling us what was recorded, whether that actual data was secured in connection with this case?
Will you repeat that question for me?
What I'm asking is, do you know if anybody else secured the precipitation data in the days leading up to December 2nd of 2022 without telling us what it was?
So again, in working with Dr. Edward Mondor at Georgia Southern, the forensic entomologist, part of his studies are to include weather data in his interpretation. So yes, I know that he accessed data.
So he knows how much rain there actually was?
I can't say what he knows, but that's a possibility.
Okay. And with respect to rain, and again, if I am going too far afield of your forensic expertise, please let us know. Counsel asked you whether or not the cleaning wipes, the chemicals in them, can destroy or damage DNA. Do you know what water can do to fingerprints or DNA if it comes into contact with it?
And there's a possibility that it can remove both from the surface of a piece of evidence or a piece of potential evidence.
What about wiping with a cleansing wipe? What could that do to fingerprints or DNA, if you know?
Well, again, there's a lot of unknown variables to the question that you're asking, but even something as simple as a dry paper towel rubbed across latent fingerprints, which are primarily made up of oil and water, will cause some mechanical destruction of those prints. They wouldn't be there anymore on a hard surface. Now, on a porous surface, it may be a little different, but on a plastic or a metal surface that's smooth, then yeah, certainly rubbing something across it could destroy those fingerprints.
Okay. And do you know if light has any impact? Only if you know.
On latent prints or DNA?
On either or.
So sunlight is got a large component of sunlight is ultraviolet light, and ultraviolet light is not good for DNA at all. In fact, you may see ultraviolet lights being used to sanitize certain things, and that's given enough exposure. My training indicates that DNA can be damaged by sunlight.
So at a minimum, you're aware that as of December 2nd of 2022, that's when a portion of her remains were recovered, correct?
I'm sorry.
A portion of her remains were first recovered on December 2nd of 2022.
Correct. That's when Mindy's torso was found.
Okay. And the rest of her body was recovered over how many days?
The right leg was recovered on the 3rd. Her left leg was recovered on the 5th. And her head was the last item to be recovered, and it was recovered on the 7th.
And do you know where that head physically was? Meaning, was it on the ground or in the ground?
I wasn't there. I'm aware of it through the circumstances of the investigation, but my understanding is buried.
Okay. Could being buried impact the ability to recover any additional DNA potentially?
It'd probably be a better question for someone from the biology section.
From the
of
biology
lab
section.
Than myself.
Okay. Now, cleansing wipes. Counsel asked you about those cleansing wipes, and you, I believe, pulled out the one that was in 1.8. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
As we sit here, did you see stains on that actual set of wipes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you don't know what those stains are, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Would you have been able to field test those stains out at the scene?
I could have.
Okay. Why didn't you?
Because those items are small enough and portable enough that we could take them to the lab and have them tested there without any trouble.
Okay. And would that have been something potentially they might have done?
It could be.
Okay. And DNA generally, that gets handled by whom in the Georgia Bureau of Investigation forensic teams?
So DNA processing is conducted by the biology section of our lab.
Do you do that?
I do not. The crime lab is actually a different division. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation is made up of 3 divisions, and the lab in the medical examiner's office is one of those. I'm in the investigative division, so while we're the same parent agency, we operate independently of one another.
Now, I just want to talk for a moment about the items in the shed. Do you have any idea who those items belong to?
I do not. I'm assuming the homeowner.
Do you
But
have
that's
any
an assumption.
Okay. Do you have any idea if they were there when Mr. Kassotis and Mindi Mebane lived there?
I have no way of determining that.
Do you have any idea? Well, let me back that up. Did you see any blood on any of those items?
Not the ones that I processed, no, ma'am.
And which items you processed, you said were the power tools, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember what type of tools you
Uh,
processed?
Again, I'd have to look at the photographs, but there was a circular saw and I want to say maybe a drill and something else. I'd have to look back to make sure that.
Okay. Do you have that in your notes?
Uh,
Or would that be in a photograph?
it would probably be in a photograph.
Okay. And can you tell us what a circular saw is? Not everybody uses those.
Certainly, a lot of folks down in the South call it a skill saw, which is kind of like calling a soda can a Coke bottle, but it's basically a saw that you would use to cut wood, lumber. It's handheld, about that big. There's a blade on the side that loads in, spins, and you can push it through the wood to cut it.
But you didn't see any blood on it.
No, ma'am.
But
I
you
didn't see
tried.
any blood on any of the tools that I checked.
Did you try to find any of the tools that could have potentially been used as cutting tools?
Yes, ma'am.
And were those all of the ones that you looked at for blood?
Only the ones that could have even potentially been used are the ones that I checked for blood. And again, out of an abundance of caution, I didn't see any, but since I already had the chemical mixed and it was there and I had enough left to test, I went ahead and pulled the tools inside and tested them
So you
before we left.
you blue starred those in the blacked out house as well.
Yes, ma'am.
But as you sit here, you have no idea if Mr. Kassotis even had access to those tools back in December or in the time frame around her body being recovered?
I have no way of knowing.
You mentioned yesterday that it was an Airbnb. Is that correct?
Our investigation indicated that.
And do you know if it was active? Only if you know if it was actively being used still as an Airbnb?
That was my understanding, is that it was still for rent.
Okay. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else?
Briefly, Your Honor. The state mentioned that, or asked you about the location of most of the trash that you saw, cans, bottles, and it was along Jones Road.
Yes, sir.
And that was approximately 650 feet away, correct?
Yes, sir.
Looking at Exhibit 1.4 that was introduced yesterday, do you recall this?
Yes, sir.
In Exhibit 1.4, evidence placards 1 through 3 and 4 through 7, those ones down by the gate, that's approximately 650 feet away as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
So even though those were also 650 feet away, you felt that that was evidence that should be collected.
I did.
And that evidence included the Husky storage container. You took that, correct?
Yes, sir.
You took the Milwaukee knife that was 650 feet away from her torso.
I did.
You took cleaning wipes that were 650 feet away from her torso.
Yes, sir.
You took torn, cut, gray cloth that was 650 feet away from her torso.
I did.
And you took literally a black plastic trash bag that was 650 feet away from her torso.
Yes,
Correct?
Sir. Yes, sir. I did.
And you, and when I say you in this case, I'm meaning the team that was there. So y'all picked up an empty cigarette pack that, at least on Exhibit 1.4, looks to be several hundred feet away from her torso, correct?
That's fair.
Was there no trash in Exhibit 1.4 between the gate and the location of her torso?
There may have been small pieces of trash that I just overlooked. That's a possibility.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, can the witness be excused?
State has no additional questions.
No questions.
All right, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.